get started anyways. Thank you guys to be here. I always appreciate you guys coming in, dropping here. It's a Friday evening, weekend coming in and nice weather outside, but still you guys decide to come and learn some Python. So really appreciate that. So today we're really gonna talk about, so a lot of you guys must be into building an apps, and when you're building an app, the first thing you do is like create a login registration page. So I thought that it would be interesting to do something like that. I also recently doing some side project, and I built an app, and I also did the same registration login thing, and I thought that oh, this is something I did recently. Let me go and talk about this thing with you guys. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create very simple registration login app. It will involve a bit of database, and for the purpose of this event, we're going to use something called SQLite, which is like very lightweight, file-based, no extra setup needed kind of database, just to keep things simple. And we will be using a couple of Flask-based libraries that will help us to build the whole login and registration page. So let's get started actually. I hope everyone can see my screen. And as always, as you know that I like PyCharm. So we'll do the PyCharm. Let's call this Flask registration login app. Now,
Nishant, are you sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry. I did. Okay. Maybe I forgot to do that. Thank you for reminding us. Let me share my screen first. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So here is a simple, I just created like simple Python application here, and let's get started with that. So first thing, anyone, once you started Python, first you want to do is create requirement.txt file. So this is basically to keep track of all the packages that we will be using here in the project. And I have this default setting where it automatically creates this virtual environment for me. So you can see the virtual environment here. So of course we need Flask. So let's just write the Flask here and create our app. Install package. Nice. Now, first thing I want to do with the Flask, as you guys know, is just create like startup page, a very simple Flask bootstrap code that we need. So just to get things started. So we are importing stuff, and let's create a simple method here. So this is the method which will have all the initialization and all the all the bootstrap stuff before we can actually go into do something else with the Flask. So we're going to initialize an app variable with Flask, giving it just name of our app. This is just a name holder, and this secret key is basically for cross validation when you CSRF token. So for the security purpose, you can write anything, my secret, and return a. This is just a simple app, and underscore name equal to underscore main. App dot run. First we need to create app equal to create app, and then app dot run. And first we need to provide the host equal to we are giving him local host. So the idea of host here is if you provide local host, this is the only host it will be able to connect. So if you want to deploy your app, remember to change this to 0.0.0.0. I can even do right now also 0.0.0.0. This says that anyone can, from any IP, anyone can connect with my app. If you only put 27.0.0.1, you deploy the app in cloud, no one will be able to connect you because the app will only take the request from localhost. But if you want request to be accepted by everyone, you put 0.0.0.0. Those who are familiar with the networking concept might know that. port number, I'm just gonna give random 7000 and debugging mode equal to true. So every time we make change, it will automatically load the app. We don't need to rerun the app all the time. We make small changes. So because of that, debug is true. Okay, nice. So now with the Flask, this will create like simple app that will run on 7000 port. What we want to do is we want to render page, basically registration page, login page, and the way Flask work is Flask has this directory where it always look for pages. So what we do is you need to write this, we need to create this folder directory for templates, and you can give any other name. You can create this folder anywhere else, but this is where the Flask by default look for all the HTML files. So if you want to like you need to change the setting like app.config, and you tell the config default file, and there's some configuration that you have to change if you really want to put this template file, some template folder somewhere else. But by default it resides next to your app, and this is where your Flask will come and start looking for a file. So for the purpose of, so let's just create simple home page. Sorry, we need to create an HTML file, new HTML file. We will call it home. So this is the page where we want to actually reach to. So you have registration, you have login, and when you make a login, after only able to do successful login, you want to reach to this page. For the purpose of simplicity, let's call this, just give this a name. This is home. This is our secret home, where only you will be allowed if you are able to log in. Now, if you want to render this page, we first need to define a route. Route is HTML path, HTTP path, where through which your application will interact with outside world. It's an API. You can also say it's a web API or HTTP API that will be used. And how do we do that? So you can just simply, once you create an app, you can simply do like @app.route, but and then you can say path. But for the purpose of better management, what we're gonna do is we're gonna introduce something called blueprint. Blueprint are basically a way to keep your routes very well managed and separately. So for our purpose, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create two blueprint. One blueprint will keep track of all your home file, home page, everything that related to your home.html, your secret home. And another blueprint will all about authentication. So like /login, /registration, /logout. So all these login, registration, logout path, we're going to keep separately, and your homepage you're going to keep separately. And when you're creating very much complex big applications which has so many different kind of modules and stuff like that, break it down nicely. What you do is you create these blueprints, and then you register those blueprint with your app. Now how to do that? So let's just create a separate file for each blueprint. I will create home Python file and one more Python file called auth. Now first home file. So first of all, we need to import blueprint from Flask. So from Flask, import blueprint. Blueprint is nothing fancy. It is just a way to like, here is all my routes registered with this blueprint, and finally I register my blueprint to app. It is just much more manageable way. You will see that, and you will understand that this is not a big deal. So let's say home blueprint equal to blueprint, and give the name to this blueprint. So we will call this home, and yes. So now, so if you remember, we used to do this app.route. Now what we can do is we can do home app.route, and simple slash def index. This is to load index.html. Now what we can do is return render template. Now this render template comes from Flask, and you can just simply from Flask import render template. And if you remember, as I was talking about that, Flask look for all this HTML file in default template folder. So because your home file home.html is already in the templates, all you can do is just go here and say home.html. So if you hit the slash route home, the root route, as you can, we can also call this root, it will gonna hit this home.html page. And if you come to, so now you have created this blueprint, you need to register the blueprint with your app. So we can go here app.py and say here app.register blueprint, and we need to import the blueprint. So from home, import home blueprint, and we say home blueprint. Now that is all set. Now we can run our app. Okay, blueprint. We also need to provide the just let me confirm this is the, yes, this was the missing thing. Okay, let's run this, and we are able to see this. Now if you go to this page, let me bring this page to on the screen. Here, so this is a 7,000, and we can see this is a cigarette home. So basically we were able to render this HTML page with the home blueprint. Now let's go to authentication. Now for authentication, we basically need two pages. One is for login and one is for registration. So let's just create two more HTML page. We call this login, and another one we call registration. Okay. And just to like see this things is working fine, we will call this registration, and we will call this login. So basically what we are doing is we are just creating empty page and empty link. So everything is connected, and then we start adding all the features on top of that. Now same drill here also in auth.py, like home.py, we create this blueprint for home blueprint. Now for the authentication, we can do the same thing. From Flask, import blueprint, auth blueprint equal to blueprint. We'll call this auth, and this is just a username. And so what all we need? First thing we need is of course login. So auth blueprint dot route, and we're gonna call this login, and same drill, return vendor template and login.html. Or bp.route. This is gonna be registration, and same render template, registration.html. Now let's go to logout. Now logout doesn't has its own page. Basically what you're gonna do is when you click on logout, you're gonna like end all your sessions and redirect the person to the login page. So we will add the logic later about session logging out, but right now what we're gonna do is just redirect user to login page. So how are we gonna do that? So we have return, we have this method called redirect into Flask, and inside the redirect, you can use something called URL for. So the idea of URL4 is you can see all this method, login, registration, which are tied to certain path. So what you can do is you can use URL4 to kind of like get the absolute path, absolute, this URL tied with certain methods. So here we're gonna say URL4, give me the URL for auth, this auth or module name auth, the whole file name auth dot method name login. So auth dot method name login. So this is where, so get me the URL for inside the auth module for the login method and whatever tied with this particular thing. So login is tied with /login. So this will kind of like return the path for login. And so this is basically done. Now, if you remember that now we created another blueprint and we have to register the blueprint for it to work. So same again, first from auth, import auth blueprint and app dot register blueprint and auth blueprint. Okay, nice. Now let's just run the whole thing. I think it's already, so it's being reloaded automatically because it is in a debug mode. Let's go to this page. So /login, and we can see login page. Let's write registration. Registration. Okay, I just when I type faster, I sometimes make spell mistake. Hopefully this will work. Okay, nice. And finally, when you say log out, it reactivates the login page. Nice. So now we have the basic connection between all these paths and everything. Now what we need to do is we need to first figure out in the login and registration what are the fields that we need, what are the like is name, email, password, what all things that we need, what is the model look like for our this user table, because basically it's going to be user table in the database that we're going to keep using on, and we need to work on that. So how to do that? So there are two things we need to think about. First is creating database, and second thing is use the database to populate the form and validation and stuff like that. Now we're going to use two things here. For the database, we're going to use something called SQLite, and we're going to use, so SQLite is a database, and the Python package that will help us to create and work with the SQLite going to be Sql Alchemy. So first we're going to do work with the SQL, like creating this database and user and all this stuff. So let's first install this thing called Sql Alchemy. Let me just cross check once package name. I think it's correct. Okay, no, it's a Flask Sql Alchemy. Things doesn't stay top of my head. I need to keep checking on all these things anyways. So now we have Flask Alchemy. So how are we going to use that? Let's first install the package. Okay. So db equal to SQL Alchemy, and inside the app we're gonna, so first need to define, sorry for this, okay. So now we have like created an instance of db. We need to first define where we want to store our file. So SQLite is basically in-memory kind of database. So every time you try to work with, so it doesn't have a standalone service or standalone software. What it does is, I don't, sorry, just give me a sec. There are some questions. So templates, so first thing, the name is templates. So that S at the end of templates. So that is one thing. Those who are not able to import the Flask module, please install Flask. You need to install this library called Flask. If you're not able to install, I mean, that is the first thing. If you're using PyCharm, and if you type something in requirements.txt, and if it is not installed, it will automatically prompt you saying that, hey, this package is not installed, so I install it automatically. So and if you're not using if you're using something else, I would recommend type something called pip install -r requirement.txt. So this is the line you can use to install the package. Basically, pip is the installer, package manager, install, and after calling -r, you type the name of the file, and it will automatically install all the package listed in the file. So if you're getting the error like no module found Flask, it is basically your Flask is not installed in your local path in whatever Python environment you're running for. So just install it like this, and you should be able to get it up and running. And templates is be mindful of the full name. It has an S at the end, so that might be the error for people who are not able to see the S. So app is outside template. So app and template are on the same level, and everything inside this Flask race is an app. Anyways, so coming back to database thing. So I was talking about SQLite, and it's a in memory. So what it will do is when you initialize SQLite, it will create one simple file, and first we need to define where that database file will reside. We are not starting in database. We are not installing in database. We are not dealing with like any extra service. We are using something in memory, but we need to provide SQL ALCHEMY SQL Alchemy DATABAS database and URI. Now this might be a little bit different for people who are using Mac versus Windows or Linux. So if you're using Windows, you will use 3 backslash. If you're using MacBook like me, you will use 4 backslash, and then you will write the file name db.sqlite SQLite. And by default, it go for SQLite 3, so that you will see later. And so this is just, and after doing this, we need to reload the app. So db dot init app, and you provide app, basically tying your SQLite with your Flask app. So this is what it does basically. Now this is just about connecting database and like pointing your app to database. Now we need to create actual table, actual database, actual table. So how are we going to do that? So for that, we first need to define the model, like what is our table model look like. And for that, what we're going to do is we're going to create another file. Let's call this file model. Okay, so in this model, we basically going to create the user model, the how the table will look like, basically ORM. So now for doing the login, there is very interesting package that we want to install called Flask Login and Flask WTF. Flask Login and Flask WTF, these are the package that will help us working with the forms. This is basically, WTF, Flask forms, and Flask login. This will give us some additional features that we don't need to implement by ourselves. We'll see how we can use them. So first, in case of models, so let's just install these two package first because we'll be using them soon. So first we need to import DB. So from app import DB, and let's create class user and DB dot model. Now we need to think about what are all the users that we need for this file. So we can go with that. So what we all we need? So first is ID. ID is basically unique ID for any user. Then name, basically name of user. Okay, there is one more error. If blueprint.name. What does this mean? Register blueprint. Okay. So Edrita, maybe just quick check that you provided this underscore name here and the name of the blueprint here. These are two minimum, uh, parameter that will be required for the blueprint. And when you go to app.py, app.register blueprint, make sure you're using the right method and passing in the blueprint package. Okay, going back to models, user model. So basically, we are figuring out what all columns we need. We need ID, just a unique ID for the user. We need name. Then we need email. So email equal to none. And finally, we need password, of course. So the idea here is we'll keep the name, we will print the name, and email and password will be our, the login, like the way to log in. Like email and password will be used for making user login, and ID and name will be just there. Okay. Now, for the reason that before we go ahead, we're gonna use some other um, modules from Flask login that will help us to do more user validation, more user control. So from Flask login, import user mixin. Now mixins are very interesting stuff. User mix, so those who are familiar with the object-oriented database, uh, you know that we cannot do multi polynomial. Like your one class cannot extend multiple class, but in Python you can kind of do that. You can kind of your one class can extend multiple class in the same like in a same category, and a lot of time we do that to add some kind of extra capabilities within your class. So so mixins are basically something that is being used in Python. So let's say you have a class called user, and you want to add multiple capability or multiple methods into your user class. Let's say authentication capability, let's say creating file capability. So the mixin is kind of like programming object-oriented methodology being introduced into Python, where in this different class you can add those mixin to add more functionality in existing class. So user mixin will have certain methods that will be extended by users, adding more capability into the user. And from the Flask login, we're going to use a user mixin that will help us working with when we'll be using Flask login for doing like login user, logging out user, checking sure that whether user is logged in or not. All those things will come into picture in future. So for those capabilities, user mixin is needed. So this is something, an extra step that we need to do when we are using Flask login to manage our login authentication session and everything. Now we know what the methods are. Now we need to define how it will look like, what are the types and everything. So db.column, and this is going to be integer. So db.integer, and this is going to be primary key. So primary key equal to true. Now name, again column. This is going to be string because it's of course name, and we will, and the length of like total number of characters in this string will be 100, and we want to keep this unique. So unique equal to true. Email address, again same stuff. It's going to be string. We're going to give much more space here because it's email, so it will take more much more like let's say 200. Doesn't matter whatever you give. I mean basically limiting the characters, number of characters in your email, and that's name, email, and password. db.column, db.string. We're gonna give this 100, and yes, that's about it. Okay, so wait, we don't need name to be unique. We need to have email to be unique because that is what we're gonna we're gonna use as our primary username. So email gonna be kind of our username, so that's why we need it to be unique. So sorry, small blunder. Email has to be unique, and password. So this is like minimum step you need to do to like define the model, and Now we need to create the file. So once you have configured this much, we need to actually create the DB file. Now there are multiple ways to create the DB file. I'm gonna skip this stage. I will give you the reference separately how to create this file. I'm just gonna copy paste this file from the one that I already have from before. Where is this file? Sorry, give me a sec. Those So those who are following me, I'm just gonna give you this file. So actually I was practicing before to like recreate the file. There are two steps, but for some reason it was not being generated right now and I couldn't figure out uh, how to do that. So those are looking for generating a file. So it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be simple command. I don't know, I'm making some mistake why it is not being created. I tried to do it before, it was working fine, but right now it was not working fine. So interestingly, the way file is supposed to be created is like you open your Python terminal, you say import uh, db from your app and uh, import from app, import db comma app. Sorry, we have method called create app which will give us app, and then db dot create. So these are two steps that's supposed to create the file for you. For some reason, it was not being created for me, so uh, I'm gonna leave it here. So, anyways, we have this file. I have created before. I was able to create before, so I have the copy from that. So we have this file, and once you create this file, I will send you one more command by testing more and how to create this file, some separate instructions. I have separate copy I created before, so that I'm also sharing on the chat window, so people who are following along can download the file from chat window and paste it here and keep working on that. So now that we have this file and we have the database being created using this format, next thing we need to do is we need to actually create the forms. So we already have the template for login registration, and for instead of writing an HTML code, what we're going to leverage is Flask WTF and Flask login. Why? Because when you use them, it provides you better control and automatic validation on your form. So if something is working, not working, you don't need to manually validate that, hey, is the name empty, is the email address format is valid, is the passwords are matching. You don't need to do any of that. It can be done very easily, very smartly, and for that reason we're going to use Flask WTF and Flask login. So first create the form.python file. So in this form.python file, we'll be basically going to create the two forms. First going to be registration form. Uh, Let me come to that. And second one is going to be login form. So these are two forms that we're going to create. Now, what are we going to use here? So for this, from Flask WTF import form. So we're going to use this thing called form from Flask WTF, and with this we'll be using multiple things. Now we remember our module, like our database table that we are creating here, ID, name, email, password. So how our registration form will look like. So first thing we're going to need is a name. Second thing we're going to need is a email. Third thing we need is a password. And we also want to like do the cross validation. So we need something called like confirm password, or like this is going to be to like retype the password, repeat the password. So we know that, hey, things are working fine. Like you type the correct password, like confirm password kind of field. So once now that we have defined our for registration kind of like fields, let's write the validation for them. So something we're gonna use is called string field. So from WT forms, we're gonna import string fields. This basically tell that, hey, this is gonna be string, and sometimes you're going to use number field or float field, but in our case it's going to be all string. And second thing we need is a validator. So validator will provide you all this kind of automatic validation for this one. So we call this string field. So first thing is label. So what is the label look like for this one? Label is going to be the thing that we're going to use for while creating our web forms in our HTML file. So this is name, we call this name. And now second thing is we need to provide the set of validators. So what all thing that we need? So first thing is data required. So we want to make sure that data is required. What else? Yes. Second thing we need is that the length. We have a limit of 100. So we can enforce that limit here on validation. Like, hey, if you the number of text that it has been entered is like is the length of 100 or less than or greater than. So this is another validation. Now for the email. String field again, because it's a string. We're going to call this email, and then we're going to do the validators. Now, first validator we need is a data required, because of course we need the data. It can't be empty. Second thing is we need is a validator called email. Now the thing about email validator is, so there is this is kind of extension to WT form, and for that we need to add additional package called email validator. For some reason, the email this validator.email doesn't work until you install this extra package called email validator. So it's just a dependency that we need to install, and it won't tell you right now. It will tell you when you try to use them. I already know that from my experience, so I'm going to install this package. So we are installing this additional package because this email will not work otherwise for some reason. This validator doesn't work. Okay. Now we are through that. Now the same drill. We can have validator dot length, which is going to be minimum. Let's like even we're going to give some minimum like 8 and maximum. We say I think 100. So let's keep it here. Now password. Now password has its own password field. So if you remember password, this is not normal text field. It will be hidden. So we will use something called password field. Password. That is a text that will go on that, and then we need validator. First thing is, of course, data required. And second thing we need is, sorry, it has to be in the list. Second thing is it need to equal to. So the idea is we want to match our two password, like password retype password. So retype password and password has to be same. So because of that, we need this validator. We say is a validator. This particular field has to be equal to confirm. And in case it doesn't happen, we're going to give this error message saying that password does not match. And for the confirm password, same thing, password field. confirm password, and validator going to be data required. That should be enough in this case. Now login page, same drill, but here we, instead of 4, we just need 2 of them, email and password. So I'm just going to copy paste them here, and from the password we don't need this equal to validator, because that is not the part of the deal here. So now we have we basically have these two registration and login thing here. Now what we're going to do is we want to use Flask login basically. So to do that Flask login, we need to do some kind of we need to use something called login manager, and that login manager will be registered in the Flask app. What this will help us is when someone log in, we will when we write the code, we will add them into a login manager, and when they log out, we will put them out of our login page. So the with this, we don't need to write additional code. Once we are able to use this login form and once we are able to use this login manager, we can simply say that, hey, you are asking this page without being login, or you are like, you are asking this page and login is required. If you're not logging, we will not let you access the page, and we will redirect you to the page. So all this kind of like, checking in and all this kind of extra bare metal, all checkups that we have to do normally on the login page will be taken care of by this login manager. And all we have to do is define the login manager and add a couple of decorators here and there to make sure that it all works fine. So first thing we need to do is inside the create app, we need to set up the login manager. So so let's do that. So from Flask login, we need to import login manager, and here in our app, what we need to do is from model import user. Remember that this user, yeah. So if you remember, this user had this user mixin. So now that user mixin basically add this extra properties to our user class, and because of that, now the login the login manager will be able to use this user for doing all these queries and stuff like that. So now let's do this login manager. Login manager dot user. This is all bare metal stuff that you set up first. So when you are saying that, hey, log in this user, log out this user, everything is ready by just one line of code, and you don't need to like do multiple checking and stuff. So okay, sorry. First, we need to define the login manager. We didn't do that. So login manager equal to login manager that we imported from, and then login manager dot view, sorry, login view equal to auth.login. So this is so it says that this is a login page. That means when you log out someone, or when you like allowing someone to log in, this is where it has to redirect. So login manager knows that if something goes wrong, if someone is unauthorized or something else, I need to throw them into this page. So that is where so auth.login says that auth is this auth file, and .login is the login that method, and whatever URL that URL 4 thing that we use here is kind of being used here, saying that, hey, if this guy is logged out, throw them into this login view page. And again, register this thing with our actual app. Same thing that we did with our database. Login manager init app equal to app, and now we are like load user. So how to know whether this certain user is to tell that, hey, this is our user, we need to do the database query based on user ID, saying that, hey, this is our existing user. So basically keep track of the user that is available, and when you try to like check the page, it says that, hey, is this user existing in the database or not? So this is something being used by login manager, which load the user. So so this will look for query. So this is now first time we are using query. User is our class and kind of represent the class attached to database. So to kind of like query the database, we can use something like this: user dot query dot get, and because this particular user ID is integer. If you remember, we created this ID field as an integer as our primary key. So that is why we need to we need to do it here. Now this makes sure that we are all set with our login page. So we can use certain certain decorator to manage our authentication and login and logout and stuff like that. So now we are all set with this here. Now we're going to work on our auth page. So first thing, we have this login page, registration page, and these are the two page. And we have not created the the form yet. So those who are familiar with HTML, for the login, we need to have basically form method equal to post, and action equal to slash. So this is for login, and same thing for registration page. Now we are not writing our we are not creating those input output. Those who remember those uh, creating the forms like the text field. What we're going to do is we're going to use our this our forms here that we created here for creating those input box. Now how are we going to do that? So to do that, first we need to go to into this authentication app, and for the login, so first thing we need our form, right? Because the forms are into form.py, so we need to import them here. So let's say login form equal to let's say from form import registration form and login form. And so this is our login. So we're going to login form. We'll work later on login. First, let's work on registration part. So registration equal to registration form. So this is something that we need to pass during the registration. Now, one more thing that we need to change here. So by default, when you say like this kind of like slash auth, it basically only take the GET request. Now remember, when you're hitting the login page, the first time you hit the page, like when you're not clicking on login button, what you're doing is you're just printing the page which allow you to enter your ID, your username and password. And you do that with using something called GET request. And by default, when you are using route and when you are writing something like that, you're saying that my route is only available for GET request. But when you click on submit button, and when you click on submit and you send the data back, you want to send the data again on the same page, but using the you're again requesting slash login page, but with the post route. And when you do the post route, that's where you want to like check for your authentication and like stuff like that. So the idea is by default this only takes GET, but we also want to enable post also. So we need to like specify that, hey, my route will take GET as well as post. So for that reason, we need to do that. If you don't do that, by default, it will only take GET. And if you try to make post request, it will just simply say that your application doesn't support this method because it's not there. So if login form dot validator and submit. So this is the case when you are trying to when you are making a post request. When you are doing the post request, you will be probably like will be validated. But if you are not validated, that means you are probably going on a GET request route. So what to do for the GET request route? Now, one thing for the GET request is we want to populate all these user forms and stuff like that. So for that, we need to pass we need to pass this form thing that we wrote here. So with the render login and with the render racism, let's just focus on racism for now. For registration, if login, if registration form dot validator on submit pass, first we are just rendering the registration page. So registration page comma form equal to registration form. So if you remember that, if you have worked on, so we have this registration.html file. Now this file, HTML file is HTML, but basically supports something called Jinja templating language. So Jinja templating language is basically, you have this HTML file. Inside this HTML file, you can insert some code, and that code will manipulate your HTML file. So what you're trying to do here is in this HTML file, although it is called HTML, but because our the Flask support Jinja template. Also, you just give an example. What is Jinja? Flask Jinja. So this is a templating language basically. That means inside your HTML code, you can insert this kind of like loops and stuff, and that will help you render a HTML page. Let me just pull out some Flask template Jinja. So basically, if you see here, so this is like title, and then there's some code here, and then there is a list here, there is some code here. So this is Jinja template language. So what happens is in your Jinja template, you can pass arbitrary variable names, and then you can access the variable names, and then you can use this for loop, while loop to manipulate your HTML file. So what you're trying to do here is, in our case, we need to pass this registration form details, and with this form details only, it will be able to extract all this information about user and things like that, and that we will use to render the page. So now let's go to registration page and come to here form. Now because we passed that form thing there, now we can access our form variable. So we say form equal registration form. That means the form variable is being passed, and it has all these details about our name and stuff. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna print something simple just to come to the idea that we're able to render this stuff. This is registration. So method equal to post, and the form name and form template. Yeah. And before that, so this is a CSRF token for security purpose. So we need to print that so it can validate that, hey, this is a valid stuff. Okay. Okay, form dot name, and then label and name. Okay, cool. Now let's go to our registration page. So you can see here this name and this particular small text box came up, and that came up to this. So we didn't do anything. We didn't write the whole HTML code, but using the form, we were able to render the whole thing. Now you can imagine the same drill. We have form dot email dot label to print that label, then form dot email form dot password dot label form dot password form dot confirm dot label. This label are coming from that first part that we wrote here. So if you go here, this all name, email. So this is all where the label is coming from. Form dot confirm. And finally, we need submit button. So that is something, unfortunately, we have to just do manually. That's all here. Okay. So this is our name, email, password, and confirm password. So so this is a registration form, and now let's try to like save the whole thing. Now, when you click on submit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So nothing happens right now because when you click on submit, it just come back to right there. We need to now write the code in our submit path. Where is the auth.py, and here is the registration. So validate on submit. So we want to make sure that things are working. So now once they are being validated properly, we want to like redirect them and make sure that everything is working fine. So so let's work on here, like what happens when you submit the data and then we need to process data, store them or whatever. Uh, Now, one more thing that I would like to add here. So when you're submitting a form, you're gonna also meet with the errors and how you handle the errors. So so let's say you wrote the name which has much more lengthier name and stuff like that. So basically, error that is coming out of the validation from your name, email, password, confirm password. How are you gonna tell the user, because we don't print them, we don't tell them. So you can also do that. In the form, we have something called errors. So form dot, let's say name dot error, and this is going to be list of the errors. So this is basically list and not single variable. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna write for loop here to print all the errors that is coming out of this whole thing. So now how to write the for loop? So this is again Jinja template. So in the Jinja template, the way to write for loop is you start this kind of like opening closing bracket with those percentage sign. So for and this, and then end for. And this is a common pattern that you're gonna keep using. Uh, and for, and please mind the space. And now for, now if you remember the Java thing, like how you do that for error in this particular, for error in form dot name dot error, and what you're gonna do, we need to print the error, right? So how are you gonna print that? So we can just do simple like this. You can do all kind of like HTML PT things, write the wrap this error, this text around something else or stuff like that, but we're just gonna keep doing like that for now. Just a simple, so just for the purpose of tutorial, you can fancy it up in your free time when you're writing the full app. So in all of them, so this was for the name, this was for the email, this was for the password, and this is for the okay. So we will, this is error or errors. Yes, sorry. So this was like errors. So as you can see here, all the validation is being done. Let's say I try to insert something that is not definitely not email. So it says enter the password. So I'm gonna enter. This says that invalid email address. Field must be between 8 to 20 character long. Password doesn't match. So all kind of validation is already being happening. You're not doing writing any extra code. You just brought all your validation rules here. It's trying to matching them. And if there is a issue, then it's just printing them here. So so this is the registration part. We may not go to all the way to the login page. I will try to like just go as far as possible, and in this case we might just do with our registration page. So okay, on the registration page now we need to write the code here for our authentication page. I'm just keep checking in things are if I'm missing out something or if everything is okay or not. Yeah, so everything looks good. Okay, so now so if form on submit, so basically idea is if everything is fine, if your form is validated, you return everything okay, so you have to basically retrieve all those data and put into database. So how are you going to do that? So basically there are three things you want to retrieve from the user: email, name, and password. So how to do that? So you're going to do like, so we're going to store them into variable. So email equal to request. Now request is another package that you need to import, and you can import any of them. It doesn't matter. All same. Request dot form dot get, and this will give you the uh, name of a particular request dot form dot. Let's try how it comes out in receiver. Uh, Name equal to request dot form dot get name, and finally password equal to request dot form dot get password. So this will give us this is the variables we are retrieving from our uh, from during the resistance time. So before we save actually into resistance, you have to make sure that the email that is entered is unique and they are not repeating with the same email address. So for that we need to just verify. So let's just make the user query to make sure that the email is unique. So if you remember, user dot query dot filter by email, pass the value of email dot first. So this will tell us if there is a if we have them user filter import user, and if we find the user, we basically gonna do flash. Flash is a basically you can like flash some message from the inside on the web page. So when you do the flash, it will just pop up, the message just pop up in your UI. So email already exists, and you want to like redirect them to same login page again. So sorry, not login, registration. So if a user already exists, then redirect them into registration page. Okay, and otherwise, if everything is okay, then We're gonna create new user, and we're gonna just initialize name equal to name, password equal to. Now we never store the original password. We always encrypt our password. So how to encrypt our password? So we have this nice utility called generate password hash in our this weird name, generate password hash workzoom.security. So this is a part of Flask itself. I don't know, it sounds like German or something, whatever. So this allows to encrypt your password, and so we just provide password equal to our password value that will be passed. And second thing is the method. You also need to provide which method you want to use, which algorithm you want to use to encrypt them. And for our purpose, we're going to use SHA 256. Someone from security class made in the bell. SHA 6 is now that we have created this instance of user, we want to store into DB. So db.session.add this particular new user. We also need to import DB. And db.session.commit. So if you remember, we need to do the commit. Some of the database has auto commit, like MySQL, where you don't need to write the commit, but all the other database, you need to type the commit to actually store the value inside database. So Flask, thank you for registration. And once you're done with registration, you'll be redirect to login page. Okay. So let's hope everything works, and let's try to do this. Not import blueprint. This is, I think there's a circular import going on here. Auth is importing app, and app is importing auth. Okay. So maybe we want to like take those inside here to avoid circular import. Hopefully this should fix. Okay. Okay, let's do it here. Hopefully this should module. We are importing request from. Okay. Use the request from Flask. Okay. So we imported the request from wrong place. This request should come from Flask. From Flask import request. Okay. Now let's try again. Okay. So we went to login page. Basically, because we got registered. So the idea is the only way from register page you can go to login if you are successfully being able to register. So because of that, because if something has went wrong, it has thrown us back to registration page. Now for the login page, same drill that we need to do here in login page. I will try to do it quickly. Login form, same thing here. Login form equal to login form. So we pass all those things. I'm just going to copy paste a couple of things from here, so it will be easy for us. So we will need this token, and we will need where is this? Yes, email label, an email error, and password. So just static things. So the login page, we can see the login things here, and finally a submit button. Now, now we need to write the code here. So same drill. For the login, we want to first capture email, because that is what we are passing in there. Second, you want to capture password. That is thing here. And then we want to, the same thing, we want to make sure that the user exists or not. So the same query on email, and if exist. So basically in this case, that user has to exist, because if he is there, then he is there. So in this case, if the error case is when we cannot find email, of user into a database. So if user is none, that means we couldn't find the particular email into a database. Then we're gonna say that, hey, like user doesn't exist. User does not exist, and we want to redirect them to same page. So basically refreshing page, or like return redirect URL for auth.login. And second, if user is there, then we want to check actual password. So we don't check password right out of the bat. We first check that whether user exists or not. If user exists, then we check the password. So if not, check password. So we are checking that check password is again coming from the same check password has from the same package, where we are passing stored hash password and user provided password. So basically, cross check between them, checking the encrypted version of password between them, making sure that is there. So if not, that means that they're not matching. So basically error, saying that password wrong, and same thing, return redirect URL for auth.login. And finally, if everything is okay, then login user. Now, if you look at here, what we are doing is we are just doing login user. We are not, like doing anything fancy. We are not checking the database something. So login user comes from Flask login. So that is take care of creating session for user, maintaining session for user, and making sure that everything is okay. Now, return redirect. If he's logged in, then we want to send him to our home page. So on the home.index. So this is about if he's validly logged in, then return him to the home page. So let's so this was our Nissan.grounded data robot. So let me just copy. I think I know what the password was. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Submit. So we got submitted. So if you see that because I entered right password, I got submitted into here. And then if I go to login page, okay, I'm here. So the question is, how about uh, what to do with logout and how I'm allowed here? Like there has to be some checking, right? Because I can just go here. So for that, this whole login form allow you different kind of facilities that help us to do that. So first thing, here we checked in user. When you click on logout, you want to log out the user. So you're gonna say that logout user. So that will end all the sessions and everything. So make sure that you're logged out. So this is again provided by Flask login. Now let's go back to home here. So basically you want to make sure that if you come to home page, you should be only allowed here if you're login. If you're not, you should not be. And there is a very, very simple solution here to do that, which is basically I'm just cross-checking the yes, login required. That's it. So with doing this, so let's just say logout. Okay. Now if I go to home page, what is that? Slash. So our slash page is basically home page. So if I just go here, it will send me to login page saying that you need to log in. Like there is, okay. And so basically I cannot go to this slash page basically. I must log in. So let me log in. So now I'm here. Now I'm here. Now if I do log out, I'm logged out here. And let me try to enter some wrong login ID password. So it didn't log in. So error didn't got printed here. Let me check why the error didn't got printed. I think we need to add some extra error printing stuff. So then Ginger template. So we need to print these flash messages here. So I'm just importing these flash messages that will be printed on top. So if message, then print the message. So all the time that the error comes in, when you send the error message, flash message, it should be printed here. Let me try again. Yes. Okay, wait. Well, this is most of it. So guys, I will set the code and all the other video and everything onto our regular GitHub page, YouTube channel, and in our event today. It is already too late, and I think we are able to create an app where you can successfully log in, register, and log out and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys be able to use all these things into your own code and try to build your own app and take advantage of Flask login, Flask WTF, whatever fuck the package name is, to enjoy the whole thing and make your app easier, faster. Literally, this can take 1 hour to complete. If you guys can think about this, I took probably 1.5 hours to explain everything. But if you are down to it, if you have done this before and you are into practice that, it will hardly take 1 hour or so to create the whole login, registration, and dashboard page for your app, which is I think remarkable considering all the validation that is being covered, all the flash messages being covered, database being covered, everything. Okay. So that's it. That's where I'm finishing my event today. And thank you guys for hanging out for me and like hanging with me and learning about the Flask and building an app and stuff like that. We'll keep doing this more and more again. So keep tuning and leave some nice message if you feel like. See you guys. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.